Good morning, everybody. My name is Jane Johnston. I'm with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Coast, and welcome to Victoria Real Estate Show with...
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Andrew Plank with Vibe Real Estate Group, and happy Leap Day.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is like one in every 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just noticing as I'm looking at our video, how your beard is shorter.
Oh, then in the our original photos and
Yeah.
how it's been. Yeah, it's kind of evolved over time, of course, as these things do. And it's also just that I got it trimmed yesterday. So this is it looking probably its best, although there's no oil in it this morning.
Awesome.
Yeah. Beard life.
So how has your week been?
Pretty good. Yeah. Number of listings that are definitely going to be coming live soon. So meeting with people, talking to them about the value of their homes, coming up with plans for what to do, what to prep, how the timing works, what to price it at. It's been really great and gratifying to hear from lots of people that are coming out of the woodwork, that are in my sphere or my network, and are getting ready to go.
Yeah, we've been working with a few people like even since last year, just trying to come up with a plan so it's less stressful over time, and trying to hit the market. So it's worked in a couple of cases. So yeah.
It is stressful, like we forget as the helpers along the road and along the path, we help people through this process, but we don't live that same stress. And of course, there's a lot of angst and thought and um, really deep thinking about these things well before we get called in quite often. So, yeah.
Well, the secret is to call us in before they get all anxious, because we can walk you through the process, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Call us in early. We're not going to, some people are, I think, afraid to call the realtor in because they think they're going to get sold or told like, oh, you've got to move, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. But, we want to do a consultation with you, get an understanding of what you want, and then talk about and give you the information around best timing and so forth. I mean, how many times, Jane, do you hear from people who are thinking they're going to probably list in the summer, and they're maybe they reach out to you mid-spring, but they've been thinking about this since the winter.
Beginning of the year, yeah.
Yeah. And we all know, well, you and I know that springtime is a better time to list than summer.
There's also, so I had a discussion with a woman who I sold a townhome to a number of years ago. And, there's discussions around your mortgage and releasing your mortgage and any penalties and all of that. She was told she's an American person, so totally unaware of all the implications of that. It's very interesting. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay, so let's do this.
Let's do this. Let's talk stats, and we're going to bring in our guest, Jen Lowe, today. And talk about
Hello, let's bring her in right now. Hello, Jen.
Oh. Good morning.
Good morning, Jen.
I have a question. So, good. We were talking about penalties and stuff. What are penalties if somebody has a fixed rate right now, like at, let's say, 1%? Are there huge penalties right now if people are trying to move? Like, and are banks allowing people to port?
Yes, porting is always, or well, I shouldn't say always, it's usually an option. Depending on the lender, there can be stipulations from province to province that can be an issue. Penalties, for the most part, are a 3-month interest penalty, because what the bank has lent the money at, if the clients have a mortgage, say 3 years ago, the interest rate they're paying is much lower than what the bank can get now.
So they're actually happy to get out of that. So the bank would probably be happy if you were to try to get out of your mortgage now, as opposed to those times where interest rates have gone down a bunch and you're at a higher rate and you're going to pay off your mortgage early. That's where the penalties are more applicable, right?
The
And they
challenge
all
is,
apply, but they're going to be hitting you harder.
yes, yeah, it's every
Yeah.
bank's slightly different.
Mm.
A lot of banks base the penalty on the posted rate, and they have a reinvestment rate, what they consider that the money could be lent at today, and quite often that is lower than what the current rates are. So how they do the calculation, I'm just taking a course diving into each bank's prepayment penalty and how it's calculated. So I've been working on that. It is very, very interesting. Yeah,
It's what's in it for me, for the bank.
and it's always what's in it for the bank. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to today's topic, which is we're going to do our weekly update. We're going to talk about the anti-flipping tax, but we're also going to get some clarity on the property transfer tax, because it's clear as mud how to calculate this, and Jen will walk us through this. Okay, so first of all, if you do like this show, please share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe, because that's important to us to let us know how we're doing in the show. All right. Andrew, take it away. Last 7 days.
I will take it away. So February 29th, 245 properties went live in the last week. 127 properties went pending. So pretty good ratio there. 86 properties decreased in price. Pretty high number of price decreases. People are definitely, again, being really sensitive to price. 4 price increases, 3 properties back on market, 168 transactions at the lawyers. 24 properties expired unsold, and 4 properties were withdrawn. We compare that to the week before. We had slightly less new listings at 236. We had slightly less properties going pending at 106. Slightly less price decreases at 76. And again, price increases even 3 versus 4. So overall, most of those numbers, other than more properties expired, but that's just going to be jumping around. We are moving into a busier time, and there's more activity. That's what I'm seeing.
Awesome. Okay. What do you do if somebody doesn't think that their house is overpriced and wants to just hold on to their price?
I mean, what are you asking? What my strategy is, or?
Yeah.
Well, it's helpful. Okay, so number one, not everyone is going to listen to reason, or they have their own purposes for selling. And I've talked to many people who say I would sell if I can get this price, because my goal is to do this, and if I don't get that price, I won't reach my goal. So there's no point in selling. So it really depends on the rationale and reason. If they need to sell, you need to remind them why they're selling and what they're trying to accomplish. That's always helpful, to show them what else is happening in the marketplace and have a conversation around the fact that, I often hear people saying, well, people can always bring an offer. And so I'm not going to bring my price down because people can always bring an offer. And there's a lot of conversations to be had around that as well, because people will just be bringing offers on the properties that are already better priced. If they're going to bring them. So it's really a consultation and an offer to like, hey, what do you want to accomplish here? And here's what's actually going on in the marketplace.
Yeah, here's the why. Like, what is the why, and here's what's actually happening, and how are you aligned with that, right?
At the end of the day, I've worked with people who just will not reduce their price despite what the market is telling them. And sometimes they get that price. We can't say with 100% certainty that they'll never get the price, but we can certainly say, based on feedback, based on showing activity, based on what the market is doing, this is where a reasonable person would be most likely to bring an offer, and we're at a different price point. What do you want to do?
Yeah,
For like the days on market, do lots of buyers really focus on that? Well, if it's like been on the market for 75 days, what's wrong with it?
Yes.
It's the greater fool theory, right? If nobody else has bought it in 75 days, why would I be the fool that buys it?
Yes, and sometimes that can get hijacked by having an offer like off the mark, and then all the buyers wander away.
Mhm.
and then your property gets stigmatized because it's just been sitting there. They don't know that you've had an offer that didn't go through.
Yeah, there's two sides to that coin. One is the seller gets an offer right off the bat that's at their asking price and proves to them the value of their home. And then they're stuck on that price over time, despite the fact that that buyer walked away because they couldn't get their financing, or they'd, for whatever reason, it didn't come together. But they're still stuck on, well, I had $1 million on this $1 million home. Everyone else is offering me 900,000, but I know it's worth $1 million because one person already brought me an offer.
The market can change so fast.
It can.
So there was a listing near me that he had priced it outrageously high, and then during COVID, the prices actually went up. And Andrew and I were talking about this property the other day. The price actually was achievable after 2 years of COVID, so it did sell during COVID. But sometimes that can be the case where it's just you have the right property, you might have the right price, but you're just not in the right market. So it can be seasonal.
It can be that too. Especially a unique property. It can be the difference between truly waiting for the right buyer to come along, because that property is so unique. The price is actually quite good, but there's just not a buyer for it because it's so specialized. So it's really a matter of, again, communication with the seller, understanding, we take a listing, we have a contract. That contract is based on the price that we've agreed to list it for. And we should be in good faith out there trying to market it to our best ability, whatever price we've agreed to do that. Going back to the seller and hammering them on price to say, you've got to lower your price, you've got to lower your price. That might be true in order, in our belief, for them to get to sell, but it's not actually,
It's
they don't
one
have
strategy.
to do that. Yeah, it's their choice what they choose to do.
Yeah. So, and sometimes it can be like, in the case of recreational properties, maybe it isn't recreational season,
Yeah.
right? Like if you think of buying a house at Mount Washington in the summer, it's going to be a lot different market than buying it in the fall or in the winter, just before ski season starts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had clients recently wrote an offer on a place. I mean, we wrote the offer about a month ago, but lost on it. But the property had been on market for 75 days. And my clients were going to bring a really low offer. And it looked like that actually, based on conversation with the other agent, would be reviewed and looked at. But in the meantime, while we were putting the offer together, another offer came in, and we ended up competing, and we lost to it. And that other offer still came in under asking price. But it was an interesting piece because, that property, 75 days on market, but it had been listed over the dead of winter. And now we were moving into a higher activity environment. So when we brought an offer, somebody else actually brought an offer. The market had just picked up enough that 75 days didn't make a difference.
And also it can be sometimes like right now in January, we seem to get off to a fairly quick start right at the beginning. And so we had some listings that had been on the market from the fall, and then all of a sudden we're like tumbling.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Those dominoes start to fall. Exactly. And then there's no other inventory out there. And it's on the flip of a switch, right? Where buyers are feeling like, oh, I've got lots of selection. I can take my time. I'm going to wait for a good one. And the inventory is building up. And then all of a sudden people start buying, and those ones that they've been like, well, I've got all of this choice, it just all evaporates. Yeah. And now they're back to being, I've got to jump on and compete for the next one that comes up, or I'm going to miss out and pay way more 2 months down the road when prices are even there.
One thing that, that I'm trying to do when I'm working at a listing is I'm keeping in touch with everybody. So it's like a spider with all my little leads coming out of the center here. And I'm like, okay, touching them and just, seeing what's going on. And then one offer comes in. And so I'm twitching all the leads there, and hopefully we get multiple offers. So it's not a question of it always happening fast, but that when it happens well. So that the communication is there to generate the multiple offer for the seller?
It goes back. So the same thing where, nobody wants to be the greater fool. The place has been around for 75 days. I don't want to be the one who buys it. The minute there's that idea that somebody else wants it, it makes it more interesting to the other parties who have viewed it in the past and have said to the agent, like to you, Jane, you the spider in the center of the web, and said to you, hey, I'm a fly and I've got some interest. I'm buzzing around, but I'm not quite ready to land yet.
It's so irritating. So actually, what you can do we're totally off topic, but it's a good topic, is you can say, you know what, let's just do a little price reduction, because what that does is it shows up in everybody's feed. So with our property on Stillwater, we were at $789. As soon as we went down to $770, we started like getting more showings. We had the one offer come in, then another offer came in, and the first offer had come in here week and a half earlier, or whatever. It was a verbal. So as soon as this offer came in with somebody who was very quickly, making a decision, they were decisive, and I'm like, this is the buyer. I notified these people. These people came right up.
Mhm.
So these people would have saved money if they just written the offer here, like a week earlier, but they didn't write the offer. They were just feeling it out.
Happens all the time, and especially in multiple offers. And I've been in so many scenarios where talk to the clients, they're thinking about writing an offer, or they and then they don't, and they wait, and then somebody else writes an offer, and then they end up paying more than they would have had to pay if they hadn't been competing, or they lose it, and then the other offer is in place. And this has happened many, many times. And then we watch for what it sells for, and they say, oh, I would have paid that. And I say, you should have made that offer. Right?
Well, and you don't want to say, by the way, your hesitation cost you $10,000, or your hesitation cost you $50,000, but it happens. And the thing is we have this thing called groupthink, right? In the fall, where it's slow. A lot of people, what Andrew was saying, they're like, I'm just going to wait and see what's happening. And then they, because they don't feel the urgency, it's the urgency and the confidence, which brings the offer. So when they start to feel the urgency, then that's when things start to flip over.
This is where, and this gets a little meta conversation, but this is where the realtor and Jen, you also as the mortgage broker and the provider of information, and the person who is the coach, our attitude really comes in as well. When we get really busy and we're jumping around and we're feeling like that urgency in the marketplace, that sometimes rubs off on our clients. And as a whole industry, it can really start to make things move with all of us feeling that way, versus the complacency that can happen. And our own individual, it's so important to check our own individual attitudes, beliefs, energies, and how is it rubbing on the clients and how is it affecting their decisions, because it's really important that we do our best to give good advice without, it's that fine line of, our own impact on the transaction.
And the other thing,
of the buzzing bees, because you're managing all that potential interest behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And meanwhile, Jane's sitting there on her web waiting for those bees.
Flies, they're flies.
I've seen them eat bees. Okay.
So interestingly, recently, I had feedback from a buyer agent saying that this property we have listed was priced too low. So I always go and see what is the perspective of the agent, because I want to know what is their experience. I mean, it's different when you have a realtor who's moving here from another city, because they seem like a new realtor, but they're experienced, or they're somebody new to the industry. And I'm thinking, especially when somebody gives feedback that it was price low, then you're like, okay, well, does that mean that they're interested or not? Because maybe they're just saying that because they're interested. Okay, let's go back to the stats here. All right. Slide number 2.
All right. Okay. Jane, you usually take this one away.
Alrighty, so we are at 386 net unconditional sales as of Monday when we get these stats. That's compared to 460 for February of 2023. So we're going to be lower, I think. New listings are at 929. That's compared to 811 for February 2023. That's way up from last week of 678. And total listings were at 2,344, and that's also up from last year. We're still in the low inventory market, though.
I really, really believe, though, we're going to see a lot of listings coming up in the next little while. Again, just based on my own personal conversations with clients and where things look like they're coming, I will not be surprised to see a real increase and surprising increase in new listing activity in the next month.
Okay. All right, so let's talk.
Here first, folks.
Let's talk about the anti-flipping tax. So I just wanted to review. We do have a federal anti-flipping tax. So that's if you owned a property or purchased property within 365 days and you are reselling it. First of all, if you lose money, you don't get to claim that. You just are reporting capital gains, not capital loss. And there are exemptions if somebody has passed away or, broken up with your partner or whatever. You have to prove that. And if you've been fired from your job as well, then you won't be subjected to it. This to me causes a lot of unnecessary stress for people.
Absolutely. At a stressful time already, and then you've got to prove that you are not trying to profit from the sale of your home because you're selling it within a 12-month period, buying and selling within a 12-month period. You're already taking a loss because you've paid all the property transfer taxes. You're going to be paying a realtor to sell. You might be taking a hit on your mortgage with the prepayment penalty if you're just not buying something else because you just have to sell. There's all kinds of stress, and then this just adds that additional stress.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt. The other exemptions are if you are moving, if you have lost all your money, obviously, or if your property is maybe collapsed due to some natural disaster. And in the case of a taxpayer who owns a right to acquire a housing unit located in Canada, so I'm assuming this is somebody who has permanent residency or something, the 12-month holding period resets once the taxpayer who has entered into a purchase and sale agreement secures ownership of the property. So this is for new construction.
Okay. Yeah, I was a little confused on that one.
You can't assign. This is saying it's going to happen if you assign it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Unclear language, but okay, I get it now.
Okay. So this is the new one.
This is the new one. Yeah.
Okay, take it away, Andrew.
Sure. So this is a 20% tax on the gain from the sale of the home within 1 year time horizon. It's prorated tax on sales up to a 2-year period. So I believe it's the full tax in the first year, and then in the period between the first year and the second year, it prorates down from the full 20% to 0%. So after 1 year, it's still 20%. After 1.5 years, it's going to be 10% and 0% after 2 years. So it just sort of scales down after the first year. Tax will apply to both properties and assignments of contracts, and is in addition to any existing federal or provincial income taxes incurred from the sale of the property, including the federal anti-tax. So this is additive, it adds on. Exemptions are available for life circumstances, just like with the federal, that could motivate the sale of property within those 2 years, including added supply for the creation of rental accessory dwelling units. So that's another, not necessarily life circumstances, but if you've added supply, there could be a forgiveness on you reselling there.
That's like putting in a laneway home.
It's unclear to me, so you buy a place actually to flip it. You buy it, you pay all of your fees, your provincial taxes.
Yeah.
You then buy materials, you bring in laborers, you do that work yourself, and you don't charge for it, and then you go to sell it, and at the end of the day, you're underwater because you're already paying. There's no profit in it for you.
Yeah, it's disincentivizing people to upgrade homes.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to find that homes just won't be upgraded anymore.
This is starting January 1st, 2025. Just the BC flipping taxes. Yeah.
So if you're going to flip a home, do it quick and make sure you have an unconditional sale before January.
So, a great source, I've got all these sources, I'll put them in the chat, but a great source is the BC Real Estate Association website. They have lots of commentary on this, and they're thinking only 1 to 2% of homes are actually flips. So it shouldn't really affect housing prices or the market here that much.
I don't know. 1 to 2% of homes are flips, and then 1% of homes were foreign buyers, and they're taking out these 1% here and 1 to 2% there, but that still can make a significant difference in the marketplace and still have an effect when the market is full, I think. But
it's additive, as you said before, right? Okay. So property transfer tax, Jen.
This is the big one, right?
Yes, it's taken them a while, but for newly built homes, they've changed the threshold from 750,000 to 1.1. And then there's a partial exemption from 1.1 to 1.15.
Okay, so I remember when this happened first, or when I was in real estate with Andrew right at the very beginning of our career, and they upped it. I think it was from 250 or something to 400.
Some number that nobody could ever be qualified for, or nobody would be buying a home for.
A brand new home.
This is finally in a position, in a place where it's actually going to apply to a lot of the new construction out there.
For a single family home.
That's great to see.
Yeah.
And so is it also for condos? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as the home has not been lived in.
Okay. That's always a hard one when a developer has been holding on to a home for a year or two and it hasn't sold. And, have they paid any GST or anything on that, or all of that, and any taxes? And anyway.
Yeah, it's usually, if it's been transferred into somebody else's name, that's where, if the property transfer tax has already been paid, or as the GST has been paid, it's considered no longer a new home. But
I have had one in the past that it was a show home. It was, the show home was then sold. But in reaching out to the lawyer, the clients were exempt on paying the property transfer tax because it had never been lived in.
Right. Yeah. It was being used, but it wasn't an actual residence, and it hadn't transferred ownership prior.
Yeah.
Which makes you wonder about the GST. So was it subject to GST?
Good question. I forget.
Probably.
I don't know if the GST was rebated to the developer. I can't remember. But yeah. So
this is great, and it's effective April 1st, and this is for first-time home buyers. So we just talked about new construction. This is also for first-time home buyers, and we have clients that are closing, I think, April 4th on a property, and they're so glad that they didn't close in March, because now they freed up an extra $8,000 based on their purchase price.
Yes. Oh, that's great.
And there's an interesting conversation. Was this with you, Jane, yesterday, around asking, maybe doing an output to our social media to say, hey, folks, if you have a accepted offer that's closing in March and you might qualify for this first-time home buyers, you might try to approach the sellers and move your dates. And then the question becomes, is that tax evasion by moving the dates? Because you're trying to change the dates to pay. I know, but that was a conversation I had yesterday.
My God.
I don't think so. I think that this is an incentive that the provincial government's trying to do as bonus for people. So I'm not super worried about it, but I just found it an interesting question because I don't know, there's so many minefields out there now. You've got to really be careful where you step.
Well,
But
we're not gonna. Well, it was kind of like during COVID. A lot of people changed their possession date to have the possession move up just so that they, in case their job was maybe at risk, they'd still qualify. So I don't know what does that mean?
yeah. Well, at the end of the day, this is great. This really makes it so that we've got a lot more, that first-time buyers have a lot more options, both new construction and resale for first-time buyers, where it's in a price point where we're getting close to the average price of a home in Victoria. Not
Yes.
quite there, but close. And certainly that should capture, for the new construction, it should capture most condos, quite a few townhouses in the West Shore at least, and even some new single-family homes in the West Shore.
What it's done before, though, when we did this, when it was around 400 to 450, is that it increased the price of homes. So people were trying to price their homes below, like, remember we were trying to price homes below 400, so they would have zero property transfer tax. And then because when you got up to 450, you added like another $8,000 or something, or $9,000. So all of a sudden, like a 450 became 459. Remember?
Yeah, that difference of that $50,000 area, that gray area where you're either paying full, or you're getting the full benefit if you're at the lower end of it, but you're paying the full amount at the high end of it. You end up negotiating within that range, and every little few $1,000s in that range makes a big difference.
Yeah,
to
it's
the buyer and how
exponential.
much they're going to be paying in that tax.
It's
definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah, the new property transfer tax for first-time home buyers. It's comical when I explain it to clients. It's 1% of the first 200,000 and 2% of the amount above, and I get a blank look, right? Like, what? So now it's much easier. You're saving 8,000 because you do not pay property transfer tax on the first 500,000. And then up to 835,000, you're paying 2%. And then
For first-time home buyers.
For first-time home buyers only. Yeah.
Okay, so what is a first-time home buyer? They have to have been in BC at least a year before they are registering the property on title.
Yeah.
They have to have filed at least 2 income tax returns in the last 6 years. And they've never owned a registered property that was their principal residence anywhere in the world.
So I just want to go back to what you said. It's an either or. They either have been owners in BC for at least a year or have filed at least 2 income tax returns in the last 6 years. It's not both.
Okay.
So you've got one or the other to meet that criteria. But yes, you can never have owned a registered interest in a property as a principal residence anywhere in the world.
Yeah, so that makes me wonder if they've had something as an investment up island. Let's say
should still apply if their definition based on the definition of principal residence. But as always, folks, it's always good to get a second opinion because we are not tax experts. So you can read this stuff, you can make your own opinions about it, but at the end of the day, the tax man will determine the taxes. This is a really fun farm. Jane was sharing this with us earlier, and we just were like, what?
This is like Monty Python. So this is the form that you have to fill out, and actually don't fill it out. Get your lawyer to fill it out for you because there's lots of ins and outs, and they're going to protect your position. Don't go fill it out yourself, folks. This
is why we hire accountants and lawyers, folks. So when you do buy a home and you are applying for this property transfer tax exemption, that form will be filled out and submitted to show that you do meet the requirements.
Hey Jen, would it be possible to create a little chart for us about here's what at first-time home buyer property transfer for tax exemption at 500 is 100%, and then a scale going up to 835.
Well, it's not a scale. It's just you pay 2% on the amount above up to 835.
Right. So like,
but there is from 835 to 860, there's a partial exemption, and no one knows how that's set up yet.
and when is this starting?
April 1st.
April 1st. In a month.
Yeah. So going back to your point, I mean, in bringing this in, you know, from a tax evasion thought, I mean, the government brought this in, well, was it a week and a half ago? When they announced the budget for the upcoming year. So it's exciting, but there's definitely a few things. It literally took almost a week. There was in my office, a lot of our brokers were going, what? Got emails going back and forth, trying to figure it out. And we finally got 90% clarity. We're missing that small piece from 835 to 860, how that works. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, can we go back again? Because I want to get the slide that we just had up. So forward one.
That one.
And okay, wait. So exemptions for okay. Hang on, I'm going back.
Oh, you missed it.
I know. So we've got this exemption for 750 to 1.1 for newly built homes.
Now that one is not just for first-time home buyers, just to clarify. Right.
And then for first-time home buyers, we have a full exemption up to 1.1, and then it goes to 1.150. So then where does this 835 come from?
That's okay. So actually, if you go back a slide, sorry guys. So that property transfer tax exemption, that's for newly built homes. It's not necessarily for first-time home buyers. So if you are buying a newly built home and you've owned a home in the past, doesn't matter. As long as it's going to be your owner-occupied home, you would be exempt from paying property transfer tax up to 1.1. However, you also have to consider the GST and how that's written into the contract, because that can really vary by developer. The one here, the current property transfer tax exempt, or how the property transfer tax works currently, it's based on 1% of the first 200,000 and 2% of the amount above. And if you're a first-time home buyer, you're exempt from paying the property transfer tax as long as the purchase price is above 500,000 or below 500,000. Moving forward, I know, are we clear as mud? As of April 1st, if you are a first-time home buyer, you are just bottom line, and you're buying a property that you're going to be living in, you are exempt from paying the property transfer tax on the first 500,000. So it is bottom line, just a savings of $8,000. Doesn't matter if your purchase price is above 500,000 or not. It can go up to 835, where you're just paying the tax between 500,000 and 835,
which is 2%.
2%. That's right. Yeah.
That's what I mean, like a scale. So like if I'm negotiating with somebody at 800,000, that is 806,000 really with the property transfer tax. And if it's 825, then it's add another 1,000 or 2,000 to that.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Taxes.
Okay.
Interesting.
But it's a savings. I mean, where I think the market that it's really going to affect people is if for first-time home buyers, they're just trying to get in, they're potentially up to 550. So instead of having to save $8,000, $8,500, $9,000 for the property transfer tax, they only need $1,000. So that's the key market. That it's very helpful.
Right.
I need a flow chart.
I'll work on that. Most definitely. I'll see what I can create for sure.
If A, go here. If B,
Yeah.
go here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So then the BC Builds program.
So
we've
yeah, this
got-
is eliminating GST. We actually talked about it last week, but our show got deleted by me. Sorry. So 20% of BC build homes will have rent at least 20% below the market rate. So this is to incentivize builders to build homes. They're eliminating the GST on the new builds, and then they're having an income threshold for these properties, $84,000. I think $84,000 is a lot of money.
Mhm.
That's and 191 for a couple. So,
Wow.
or more. So, but they're doing this for they're doing a program for 3,000 homeowners. They're going to give them up to $40,000 to build and rent below market rate. Which they did this in Victoria, did not go over well.
Yeah, we were talking about this last week in the deleted episode.
I was grumpy.
Yeah, Jane was grumpy. And she was probably saying some things that we probably don't want to put on air. So I have a copy of it for anyone who wants to see it now. But yeah, it's interesting because, you really want to think about if you're going to be building putting in a suite and getting that $40,000 loan, you will have to rent it at below market rent for at least 5 years. But, that doesn't mean after 5 years, you're necessarily going to get full market rent at the time, because if your original tenants are still staying there, you're still stuck at a lower mortgage rate. So when you're doing the math on this, folks, as to the savings, it might help you get you that suite and some increased value in your home by using that loan.
At a low, not a low mortgage rate, but a low rental rate.
Low rental rate. Sorry, yes, a low rental rate. Thanks for the correction.
Yeah.
So it's definitely important to look at all factors before you take advantage of that. And that might be why it would have less uptake than the government thinks, because there's some great ideas out there, but rubber doesn't always meet the road for actual reality of how people are going to make it work.
Yeah.
It makes for great headlines.
Yes.
Speaking of headlines, what's going on in the rates overall, Jen? What are you hearing?
Well, very exciting in my mind. We're seeing fixed rates under 5%. So that's a big win, considering doesn't seem that long ago they were over 6%. So it's very nice to see.
Excellent.
And what's the prediction? I saw an announcement that you made on your social media about the inflation rate lowering.
Yes.
And that's primarily due to gas prices, right? Coming down?
Yeah, the oil and gas. What's interesting, though, is that is still with our shelter costs are the biggest contributor to the core inflation. And I mean, that's only going to go up because it's all over the headlines, as well as the amount of people's mortgages that are coming up for renewal in the next few years. So, I mean, I think rates have to come down.
It's a self-fulfilling cycle when you've got, sorry, Jane, I'll just finish this thought, but it's a self-fulfilling cycle if the Bank of Canada is trying to keep inflation to a certain point low, but in order to do that, they raise the interest rates. But if they raise the interest rates, then they raise the inflation, because it costs people more to have housing, and housing is one of the key factors in inflation. So you can't really solve the problem by raising rates.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I was going to ask.
The formula for how they calculate the core inflation, they changed not that long ago.
Oh.
I don't know. I mean, that's over my head. I'm not an economist, but we were in a presentation not that long ago, and these formulas were changed. And I thought, really?
Mm.
I don't know.
They're
about
probably
that.
hopefully recognizing and realizing that like the key factors that they're using to manage this
Measure.
are just not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway,
but
above
yes,
our pay grade.
are coming. We the Bank of Canada is meeting March the 6th, the next week. So we'll be very interested to hear the commentary for when rates are going to be coming down and how quickly. Because
Will that be a rate announcement next week, or is that just a meeting that they're going to discuss?
Nope, it's a rate announcement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll find out. And is the expectation it's going to sort of continue to stay as it is for a little bit? I mean,
I'll put my prediction out there.
I'd love to hear.
I don't think they're going to drop rates yet, but I think the timeline for when rates are going to drop is sooner than originally thought.
Okay.
I remember my question.
Oh,
okay. So what percentage, they must have this data somewhere, what percentage of people or of homeowners had fixed versus variable rate? Because we've been talking over time, the variable rate people felt the punishment for the past year and a bit. The fixed rate people were kind of sitting pretty, and now they're going to hit the wall.
I don't know the percentage. But what's interesting is, I mean, it's got to be a significant amount because it's all over the news that it's like 40 to 60% of all Canadians' mortgages are coming up for renewal in the next 2 to 3 years. So, yeah.
But that's
that makes sense. Most mortgage, I mean, the time frame for a mortgage term is 5 years, right?
Yes.
Well, and most people refinanced during COVID.
Yes.
So
I would say, if I could guess, I would say 60-40, 60% fixed, because the banks always push the fixed rates, 40% variable. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're gonna have lots to discuss next week, and our show is at 9:30 on Thursday morning. So please join us then, and put it in your calendar, you guys. And if you have any questions you want us to answer, please let us know. In the meantime, Andrew, how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, before I say that, I want to say, folks, too, that we do have recordings of this show. And so if you want to go back in time, or there's a specific topic that you were curious about, we've probably talked about it. And if we haven't, then request that we talk about it. We'd be happy to have topic suggestions from you. And so to do that, reach out for anything real estate or anything at all. I'm at 250-360-6106. Email info@andrewplank.com. Come to the website, andrewplank.com, and follow me on Instagram at plankandrew. And thank you very much, folks.
Okay, Jen, how do people reach you?
Yeah, my number is 250-217-4925. And email is j.low@dominionlending.ca, and my website, jenlow.ca.
And she's really active on TikTok, folks.
I'm having fun on TikTok, yes.
All right. And if you want to reach me, I'm Jane Johnston. My number is 250-744-0775. My email is briarhillgroup@gmail.com. And you can visit me at briarhillgroup.com. You can see these shows and more at victoriarealestateshow.com or on Andrew's and my YouTube, which is probably the best place. Hold on. Let me just get up here. Ugh.
I was going to say, Jane, you're starting to become that, like.
I just want to say the show is great. The information that you guys are providing and reaching out, taking your time to do so, is phenomenal.
Oh, really? Do you watch it a lot?
I do. And yes, having this information is key for people looking to get into the market and buying and selling. So you guys are doing a great service.
Wow, I feel so good.
Yeah, that feels really, really good. And you know, I know there's a lot of people who listen to us on sort of just audio. They're not watching us talk, but they're listening as they're going about their day or about their business or working on their computers. And it's really great to hear. I need to learn to use more of a radio voice, I suppose. Get a bit deeper. Yeah, I'm so glad that we have an audience. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we'd love to have you back, Jen, more regularly as well. So we were talking about that.
I'd love to be here.
Yeah.
All right. So you guys, we'll see you next Thursday at 9:30. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. And thanks for joining us today. Bye.